The Indian's Treasure by Margaret O. Blackwood. Read by Frank Blissett. A great many years ago, before my mother can remember, instead of there being the little town in which we now live, there was a beautiful Indian village. It was situated on the shore of Lake Superior, at the mouth of the smooth and silent river which is called the Ontonagon, an Indian word meaning, "Oh, my dish." Here the Chippewas lived peaceful and happy lives. The men hunted and fished, while the women, who have always been industrious, worked day after day, doing the same work their mothers had done before them. One day the Indians, who had, previous to this time, discovered the dull copper which, by scouring upon the sand, became bright, found to their intense delight an enormous mass of the pure metal, which weighed many tons, up in the Porcupine Mountains. They were greatly pleased with this beautiful treasure, and guarded it jealously. They thought the Great Spirit had given it to them as a reward for their goodness and strength. One evening at twilight a strange canoe was seen approaching upon the calm waters of the lake, which brought the Indian people out of their wigwams to gaze upon the unusual sight. Was it one of the cold and cruel white men from the south, of whom they had heard so much? Or was it one of the people from the north, who were so friendly and willing to trade with their tribe? When he landed, great was the consternation. The Chippewas had never before looked upon the face of a white man. He greeted them kindly, and told them he was their friend. The Indians trusted him, for he spoke in their own native tongue of many great things that had been done. The Indians listened in amazement. This made them believe he was more than an ordinary man. When Jim Paul, for this was the stranger's name, was hunting one day, he came upon a crowd of braves seated around a fire in the woods. They were earnestly talking, making gestures as they spoke. Without thinking what it might mean, he stepped noiselessly up behind them and listened. He heard them say that, as he was their great friend, they should show him their wonderful mass of copper. The greed for wealth was upon him, and in another moment he was commanding them to take him to it at once. This aroused the Indian's suspicions, and on noticing it, he vowed he would bring the Great Spirit upon them. At the same minute, a dull rumbling over the lake was heard, and the Indians, who are mortally afraid of thunder, rushed through the forest and revealed their treasure to the white man. The next day Jim Paul caused the copper to be floated down the river and placed upon the landing at the mouth. Here it remained until one day a government boat, which was surveying the shore, came by the village. The Indian's friend, Jim Paul, who did not know the government men were friends of the Indians, beckoned to them and urged them to take his copper to Detroit. But the captain, who was an honest man, knew it belonged to the Indians, so he took it to Detroit, and from there it was sent to Washington, D.C., where it is on exhibition at the present time. That was The Indian's Treasure by Margaret O. Blackwood. Read by Frank Blissett.